Warren is one of the, basically all of the candidates running for president other than Bernie Sanders who support a convention potentially giving the nomination to someone who did not earn it by getting the most votes and the most delegates. And so she was questioned about that at a town hall last night by a supporter of Bernie Sanders, and here's what she had to say.
Can you explain why the will of the voters should not matter if no candidate reaches a majority of delegates?
So you do know that was Bernie's position in 2016?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah.
He won 22 states, so he went to the convention for
that was
his voters.
Bernie's position in 2016, that it should not go to the person who had a plurality.
Okay.
So, and remember, his last play was to superdelegates. So the way I see this is you write the rules before you know where everybody stands, and then you stick with those rules. So for me, Bernie had a big hand in writing these rules. I didn't write them, but Bernie did when they were putting together the 2016 platform for the Democratic Convention. Those are the rules that he wanted to write and others wanted to write. Everybody got in the race thinking that was the set of rules. I don't see how come you get to change it just because he now thinks there's an advantage to him for doing that.
Okay, so there are two possibilities coming out of that. Either Senator Warren is very mistaken about what actually happened between 2016 and today, or the other option. She wants you to be mistaken, so she's lying to you.
She's doing what I think the most effective obfuscations do is it has kernels of truth, but it is certainly not the reality.
Exactly, and look, through the course of this video, we're gonna walk through a couple of, let's as shorthand, we'll call them lies. A couple of the lies in that video that you just saw. So first, I want to show you a little bit of a sort of a mashup that Walker Bragman put together. It's a little bit of video from 2016 of what Bernie Sanders was actually saying at the time.
So you do know that was Bernie's position in 2016, that it should not go to the person who had a plurality. His last play was to superdelegates.
A superdelegate is thinking about going to you, but Hillary Clinton won their state. Presumably they should stick with Hillary Clinton.
Look, there's not a rigid rule, but I think, if you win, Hillary Clinton wins with 53% of the vote. She won Illinois by a point or two, sure. But when a candidate, whether it's Clinton or myself, she demolished us in Mississippi, I think the superdelegates should support her in Mississippi. But when in states like Colorado, and in many other states, Utah, etc., we win the overwhelming majority of vote, I think those superdelegates should go with their state.
So what you saw there was, look, he was existing inside of the context of superdelegates being there, and there's more context we're gonna add, but what he was saying was, if someone had an overwhelming lead in a state, they should get the superdelegate support. He said specifically there, including if it's Hillary Clinton. So what he said is the superdelegates should respect the will of the voters of that state. And that has been twisted by Elizabeth Warren at the town hall, by people in the news in any number of articles into, he didn't like it before, but now he likes it, to make him seem like a hypocrite when his stance that the voters should decide was exactly the same in 2016 and 2020.
Yeah, so look, she's making her case. She's not gonna win. And I think it's a huge mistake because she's being untruthful on her way to eventually losing. She'll probably not win one state, including her home state of Massachusetts. And she, for a while, was the front runner for Bernie Sanders' vice presidential pick. Now, a lot of things can change. A lot of bad things are said in primary contests. Remember the very, very testy Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton primary contest in 2008, and then he made her his Secretary of State. So a lot of things can change leading up to the general election. But what are you doing? Why are you being the candidate that's against democracy? And also, you're misleading people to get there. The one kernel of truth is that there were hints from Bernie's team back in 2016 when they said, Bernie's the best candidate against Trump. We can't afford to put forward a nominee who's polling so poorly against Donald Trump because he's a unique threat to our country. They've been proven right because she lost to Donald Trump, but they never went so far to say overturn the will of the people and make it so that that Bernie Sanders is the nominee. They were trying to make the best case that they can, as Elizabeth Warren is attempting to do, but she's doing it through lying. And it's just, you can tell she gets her back up, like she gets aggressive when she's talking to that Bernie Sanders supporter because there's just something in her that it just doesn't sit right. And she's like, oh, why are these Bernie Sanders supporters holding me to account? Because I was trying really hard to straddle this line between progressive and welcoming in the establishment wing of the party, and she's not able to do it because there's too much of a schism there. And they don't like you either, Elizabeth Warren. You're selling out your progressive credentials for nothing. You're not gonna win, right? And again, as a senator, legislatively, like talking about primarying her is like truly one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. If Bernie Sanders is president, she will vote everything through and get people to vote for him. She has so much power and is one, again, legislatively, top 5. It's really hard to get a true progressive in the Senate. It's not the House, that's easier. But again, I'm just saying that she's losing a lot of goodwill.
Yeah, in terms of the vice president thing, I don't know, but I do know that if you subscribe to youtube.com/The Damage Report, Emma and I have a video coming out this weekend, our top 10 suggestions for who we should pick.
Shameless plug.
I will say there's at least one pick from me that's sure to anger you, so look forward to that.
There's probably one pick from me.
Yeah.
Might be my number one.
Yeah,
that will anger people.
Maybe. But watch the video before getting angry. Maybe we explain our reasoning.
John is bummed he's getting ratioed.
Yeah, it's happened before. It'll happen again. Look, we talked about what Bernie was actually saying, and by the way, to people who like will say Bernie. So X person had Y position then, and now they have Z position now. Ha ha ha! You've changed. Why don't you have a standard? Like those people say that he's flipped, but they don't acknowledge that they're flipping in the opposite direction. That so Elizabeth Warren is saying that he wanted it to be switched before, and now he doesn't. Look at that, that's opportunistic. Okay, but so what do you stand for? What do you think should happen? Because the thing is, Warren is actually available on video saying back then that the will of the voters shouldn't be overthrown by the superdelegates. So it looks like if Bernie was shifting, we'd already shown you that he hasn't, then he's not the only one because she's shifting too. Like, why can't people just have a standard? I have a standard. The person with the most votes should win. That's a good reason to get rid of superdelegates, the Electoral College, a whole bunch of things that are fundamentally undemocratic. Now, in addition to the misinformation she was spreading about what Bernie was actually saying in 2016, I've also seen a lot of dissection of the process whereby we got these rules, and she spread some misinformation there as well. So here is a bit, this is from Jonathan Allen in NBC News. Ultimately, the rules changes before this election were a compromise, not exactly what Sanders wanted. But he's the only 2020 Democratic candidate who had a real hand in the process. His top advisors, including 2016 campaign manager Jeff Weaver, 2020 campaign co-chair Nina Turner, and former Communications Workers of America President Larry Cohen were members of the commission. So what she keeps saying, and many people keep saying, is that at the 2016 platform committee, they changed the rules on superdelegates and Bernie got what he wanted, but now he's got sour grapes and he doesn't want it anymore. That's wrong in multiple ways. First of all, the rules weren't changed at the platform committee meeting and they weren't changed in 2016. They were changed more than a year later at the Unity and Reform Commission meeting, which we've both been at. That's when it was changed. By the way, both of those committees were I don't know if overwhelmingly is the right word, but the majority were Hillary Clinton picked people. So again, in the end, Bernie wasn't the one who was dictating the process. And most importantly, they didn't want superdelegates to exist at all. They tried to eliminate them, they were overruled. We ended up with a compromise to stop them from overthrowing the will of the voters, at least on the first vote. But if the Bernie supporters had gotten their way, they wouldn't exist now and we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. So if you're going to dredge up history, at least get one element of it right.
And the chair of the committee was a Hillary Clinton person. The vice chair was a Bernie Sanders person. I think that kind of says enough. He did not have a majority of people on that Unity Reform Commission. Again, we were there and there were the elimination of superdelegates was one of the #1 priorities of the Bernie Sanders people there, and they did not get what they wanted. So when you're trying to say Bernie was pro superdelegates in the process with 2016, that's rewriting history and rewriting it to your advantage. It blows my mind that she's going down, swinging like this, swinging wildly, swinging aggressively, and seemingly just burning up things Daenerys style in her wake.
Let's not go there. We're already angry enough.
Okay. Yeah, but it's whatever, you know how I feel about it. It's just a terrible, terrible mistake, and she's doing it purposefully, and you can tell when she's interacting with that Bernie Sanders voter that it's just something that angers her inside of her because she knows she does not have the moral high ground.
Yeah, and I just, again, how is this not coming up the debates? That Warren and all the rest are like, oh yeah, will of the voters, who cares about that? Let's overturn it. Every one of those same candidates, furious that after a popular vote that went to Hillary by millions of votes, the Electoral College overturned it. Remember how angry you were? How fundamentally undemocratic that was? The righteous fury you had? Let's do that in the Democratic Party now. That's a good idea. That really buttresses your moral position going into another election where, hypothetically, the Republicans could win while getting less votes.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.